Hello. Okay, so it says one viewer. I think that's just me. I don't know how it works, but we'll get there. And although on the preview on here, it looks dumb because there's a delay. So whenever I say something, it says it 10 seconds later on there. So I'm not going to unmute it because it would totally be weird. But we got it, and I'll see if anybody posts in the chat or anything. But if you're watching, thank you. If you're watching later, totally fine. We're going to have a live lesson once a week in every class. It's not a giant special event. It's just a normal thing, and I want to make sure we have these recorded for the record, and I want to make sure we have these available for anybody at home. So today I'm going to introduce a little project that we're going to do, and I mentioned this before. I think it's going to be a nice sort of 4-week thing. We've got 4 weeks of normal school, plus a little bit of e-learning between now and the end of the semester. Thank you, Philip, for waiting to do the zipper at the right time. No, it's perfect. I want to do a project that's a little more than what we did, that's got, you know, a few extra more advanced things, but nothing too huge because, like I said, it's only 4 weeks. So I'm going to give you guys this playlist of videos. It's only 4, don't worry, where this guy goes over a Pong game in Python.
And using a library, you can do something.
And he's using something, that's a weird
Very cool
place to stop it. He's using something called Piegame, which is a library of code that other people have already pre-made, and so you can bring that in to give you a head start, especially related to graphics. So it has stuff that can put objects and colors and draw things on the screen. In this case, we're just drawing rectangles, maybe a circle. You know, for Pong, it's not any complex 3D stuff, but it still gives us a head start. And the way you do that is you just import it, just like a lot of you guys did import random on your, let's see. So this is one that I started to follow along with his thing. And so you import Piegame. You have to choose that from Replit. Like when you start the doc, you have to start it as a Piegame whatever. And then you import, and then you get stuff where you can go Piegame dot whatever, and it has functions that are built in. Fill, draw, display, things like that. And so what he shows in this playlist, I don't know, is making some borders of the area. Let me see if there's like a good example here. It's not one. By the way, the numbers on this playlist, it goes 00, 01, 10, and then 11, because that's two things different than if they called it 1, 2, 3, 4, right? One is that we're using binary digits, right? So like 01 is 1, but then 10 is 2, because the second digit from the right is your 2 slot, and then 11 is 3 because you've got a 2 and a 1. So that's one thing. They're just being cute. It doesn't actually matter, but they're using numbers in that binary system. But also the other thing is that they're starting with 0, so you got 0, 1, 2, and 3 instead of 1, 2, 3, and 4. But let me try to find this spot where he was showing like the actual game area. Yeah, so like you draw a border on top, left, and bottom, and then it'll give the ball something to bounce off of. And then he's showing here you can draw the ball, but oops, you forgot to erase the previous frame, so it's just writing over. Then you can erase it and make sure the ball moves each time by drawing itself one slot over and then erasing the previous one. So it's some stuff like that that is really simple, and you're following along, so you can follow along with these videos and do what he does. But the code itself actually looks like what we've been doing. You know, like if you look at the, oh my gosh, why did I have this so badly organized? If you look at the code, it looks like, you know, our stuff from quarter one. You import something, you have some variables, you make a class, you have your sort of set up with the scenario, and then you have a little loop that's like, oh, you do this thing until they quit, you know, which is very similar to what we did on our card games and dice games and board game type projects in quarter one. So it's not like a whole new universe. And when I saw that tutorial, I just like the guy and the way he describes it. And I'm not going to play the video and make this into a super long thing, but you can play them on your own, or I can play it in class after I stop recording this. And the guy, the way he explains it is very nice and very sort of gentle, I guess. The steps you go through will lead you to a game with one pong paddle and one ball, and it bounces against the wall. It's just like a single player thing. Like, you know, he calls it squash because in real life the game of squash is where you hit a racket against the wall instead of, you know, an opponent in tennis. And that's the first 3 videos. If you do that, you get up to the point where you've got 3 walls and a paddle and you bounce it back and forth. And then we can go from there. So what I'd like to do is make this a pretty structured project, and we all do that and get up to that point where you've got 1 paddle, 1 ball, 3 walls. And then you can add your own spin on it. So maybe we all get those 3 steps, get to that point, and then you say, well, I want to make a 2-player game where the other person can use like WASD and then the other person can use the arrow keys and they can both move and play. Or you might say, well, I'm going to make a computer player to play against, and I control one and the computer controls the other. Or you could say, well, I want to add extra objects to this world. I want to turn it into a breakout game, or I think the cool math version of that is called Brick Breaker. You guys know what I'm talking about, where you like bounce it into little items that crack and then you know, explode. You could do that. It would not be that hard to make extra objects once you get the classes and once you get the environment set up. So I'm really optimistic about this project. I think it gives us a very structured thing at the beginning, and we can go and make all these environments the same, following the rules. Then on the final step, each person can branch off and do their own thing, and somebody's going to say, well, I want to make sounds, or I want to make slightly more interesting visuals, or I want to add a second player, or I want to add other objects, or I want to turn it 90 degrees. So you know, that's how the game Breakout is, a, you know, Space Invaders type of thing. Because once you get that set up, you can mess with it, you know? Anyway, that's our plan for the quarter. I think it's going to be great. There's one problem, which is that sometimes it's not working in Replit. Like right now, if I was going to show this, yeah, okay. It was giving me some errors, and it's drawing the border on top and the border on bottom, but it didn't do the left one. I think that's because like it actually is, but it's kind of off screen in a weird way. You know, like there's some weird stuff on Replit, and it's giving me errors about things it's importing from the library in the Piegame, but it's not enough to prevent it completely. And I looked these up, and most of these are related to like sound files and stuff, so we can probably ignore it, or tell the computer to ignore it, or figure out a way to fix it. We'll see what happens. The other possibility is we use a different website. There's a site called tinker.io, I believe, or something similar to that, where you can do Python online. The other possibility is that we don't do it online and we just install the actual software on a computer and run Python with our own stuff, not based on, whatever's on a server somewhere. I already checked. We can go to Miss Cook's room during 5th period. She's got the best computers. We can install anything we want, and that might work. If you're at home, I can tell you what we installed so you can have the exact same thing and make it compatible. But first, we're going to try to make it work with this online setup, because I do want to, stick to Chromebooks as much as we can and make things really accessible. So, what do you think? Anybody have a question? I got nothing in the chat. It only says 1 viewer. I don't even know what that means, but luckily this will be recorded. 2, ho ho. Maybe it's just me in another window. I don't know. So what do you guys think? After I stop this, I'm going to actually show you that video of the Pong introduction, and then we can start messing with it. Like I said, once I did it in Replit, and it just worked. It was just there, and you could move the paddle, and it looked a little weird because, in that little preview window, and then if you try to open it in another window, that had an error. This time, it wasn't quite working in the preview, so we'll figure that out. But otherwise, I think this is going to be fun because we're going to make actual graphics, an actual game, plus the chance to make it your own at the end. So I'm going to end this stream because I want to make it short for people who watch later. If they see like, oh, it's a 40-minute video, they're not even going to try. But if you have any questions, we can answer them anytime. What do you think? Yeah? Okay. Thanks.